أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. This is Khatira number 11, Hope in the Victory of the Righteous. One of the most beautiful ayat of the Qur'an that you must have heard before. In fact, it just so happened that I cited this ayah at Jum'ah in the khutbah today in Surah Al Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. It is in turns that we apportion the days among men, the days of fortune and the days of misfortune. You know, it constantly keeps rotating in this cycle, and we experience it every once in a while. There are days of adversity, and then there are days of prosperity. There are good days and there are bad days. For every single one of us, that's the nature of life. Which means that whatever difficult time that you're going through right now, inshallah ta'ala will eventually dissipate and better times are going to come. But here's the thing, this ayah can also be stress inducing. You know why? Because if difficult times will change, then good times will also change. Then your time of prosperity will also change. You know, these times when we have peace of mind, we have good relationships, we have financial security, we have good health, these times will also change as well. And so, as a believer, I want to believe that bad times are going to be replaced by good times. I want to believe that evil is going to be extinguished. I want to believe that there is an end to this struggle and that we are not constantly playing, you know, this game of musical chairs with fate, right? I want to believe that one day all evil in the world is going to go away. You know, like today, for example, you have Zionism and their control over Gaza. These are bad times. Inshallah ta'ala will be replaced by good times when, you know, the Muslims in Gaza, you know, rule their own destiny, right? Wouldn't you want that? Inshallah ta'ala, it'll come one day. But the thing is, the ayah also says the opposite. The ayah says that if you are enjoying prosperity right now, that ultimately will be replaced by, you know, difficult times. And so, which one is it? Because it looks like it's a game of musical chairs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-A'raf, and this is the ayah of hope that I wanted to share with you tonight, He guarantees this finality that you are looking for. He guarantees the finality that you're looking for. That yes, we might keep going back and forth like this with evil, but eventually, haqq will rule and will rule forever. And the earth will be given back to its rightful owners. And this happened in Surah Al-A'raf 128. This is the ayah of hope that I wanted to share with you tonight. So the conversation goes on between Fir'aun and his entourage and Musa alayhi salam. And Pharaoh says to his people, قال سنقتل أبناءهم ونستحيي نساءهم وإنا فوقهم قاهرون. He says to his people, we will murder their boys and we will let their women live in order to take them as our slaves, and we will continue to exercise control and sway over them. We will continue to enslave them. So Musa alayhi salam, upon hearing this, he does not address Fir'aun. He turns to his people and he speaks to his people directly. قال موسى لقومه استعينوا بالله واصبروا. استعينوا بالله واصبروا إن الأرض لله يورثها من يشاء من عباده والعاقبة للمتقين. He doesn't even waste his time responding to what Pharaoh says to him. Rather, he absorbs the blow, turns his face to his people with strength, with discipline, with resilience, with the utmost faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he says to them, استعينوا بالله واصبروا. Depend on Allah and persevere. Remain patient. إِنَّ الْأَرْضَ لِلَّهِ يُورِثُهَا مَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ. For this earth belongs to Allah and He grants it as a heritage to whomever He wills. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And this is the part of the ayah that made us selected for you tonight. الْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The good end, the good outcome is always for the righteous. The good outcome is always for the righteous, which puts a limitation on the other ayah in Al Imran that I shared with you, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Yes, The days will continue to recycle and circulate, the good days and the bad days between men. But there's an end to all of this. And that end is that الْأَرْضَ لِلَّهِ يُورِثُهَا مَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ. This earth truly belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He grants it as a heritage, as an heirloom legacy, as an inheritance to the righteous. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Now I ask myself today, am I among the righteous? Because that becomes then the most important question. Imagine that you have maintained this thread of attachment with Islam. You've prayed Jum'ah or maybe Salatul Eid once in a while. But because you're associated with the Muslims, you experience the struggles that the Muslims experience, right? Because of your skin color, because of your name, because of your background, because your parents are immigrants, whatever, even though you're doing everything in your capacity to fit in, to be like everyone else, and you do all the vices and all the haram things, and you're trying to engage in all the horrible things that everyone else is doing, right? But because of that association, you still experience Islamophobia, you still experience bigotry, you still experience racism, you still experience discrimination at the workplace. Wouldn't that suck so badly? When the day actually comes and the triumph is given to the ummah, you are not included. Why? Because you don't belong to al-muttaqeen. The ayah says, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. You have to be amongst the righteous in order for this divine universal law to apply to you. And if you don't belong to this group, if you don't belong to this ummah, you don't get to enjoy that. You will only enjoy the miserable times, and when the good times comes, you're not going to enjoy that, right? Listen to what Musa is telling his people, right? First, he gives them two instructions. Ista'inu billahi wasbiru. Depend on Allah and persevere. If you're looking upon a storm, brothers and sisters, you're going to need both, because they are, the flip sides of the same coin. They work hand in hand. You need isti'ana, which is the dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to be prepared for the storm. But you need patience and perseverance in order to be able to push through the storm and to be firm through that storm in order for you to see the sun rising on the other side of that storm. If you do sabr without isti'ana, then you're fighting on your own. And if you do isti'ana without sabr, then it's an engine without fuel. It has to be both. You depend on Allah and you exercise patience so that you remain firm in difficult times. Don't be hanging by a thread, brothers and sisters. Understand that the days come and go in turns. They recycle. But ultimately, the best outcome is reserved for the righteous, for the believers, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الْأَرْضَ لِلَّهِ. This earth belongs to Allah, with everything that's in it, with its khair, with its desert and greenery, with its beautiful mountains and hills and valleys, with all the beautiful resources in the belly of the earth, with everything beautiful that man has created and has erected and established. All of it does not belong to us. It belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at history. One nation to the other, one civilization to the other, one dynasty to the other, one political authority to the other, one country to the other, until we are where we are today. Look at this land of ours. Many of you are homeowners here in Placer County, right? Ask yourself, who owned this land before me? First, it was, random white Christians that lived in these parts. And before them, it was cowboys. And before them, it was Native Americans. And before them, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows where. Look at your old country, where you came from, the succession of civilizations that laid claim to the land that you ancestors came from. How many people recycled that land? How many times it changed hands until it came into your possession today? Ultimately, we are all temporary users. It's not really ours. It belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He gives it as a heritage. He gives it as a gift to the righteous. إِنَّ الْأَرْضَ لِلَّهِ يُورِثُهَا مَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ. Make sure that you belong to ibadih, that you belong to His worshippers, so that you inherit that land from Him righteously. Subhanallah. And that really makes me caution you about something. I want you to pay attention to this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give you a gift that you will receive in haram, right? He doesn't give you a gift that you receive in haram. Ask yourself, how did you acquire your property? How did you acquire your wealth? How did you acquire your car and your house? What kind of transaction did you use? Did you make sure that your transaction is halal? Did you make sure that your conscience is clear before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So you become a true worshipper that inherits in goodness and khair and clarity from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? Because that too matters, brothers and sisters. And then the most beautiful, what a beautiful promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's comforting the believers and He says, yes, you will have to experience the ups and downs of life, the difficult moments and the easy moments, but rest assured, those of you who suffer at the hands of tyrants, those of you who struggle with a chronic health illness, those of you who have so much debt that they're not able to pay, those of you who struggle with insubordinate and stubborn children that are making their life miserable, those of you who are constantly playing the balancing act every single day, managing every single person in their lives, those of you who struggle in tough work, toxic work environments, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, Al-aqibatu lil-muttaqeen. Ultimately, the ultimate gift, the best outcome, true success is reserved for the righteous. In other words, be among the righteous. One of the mistakes that we make is that we think very, very short term. And we assume that the current problem that we're having is the entire story. And it's not. The current problem that you're having is not the entire story. It's just one chapter of that story. And there are more chapters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will write for you. One day it's bad, the other day it's good. Until inshallah ta'ala it's good forever. And then you need to redefine what victory really is, because that matters too. Victory is not necessarily what you've had in mind all along. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a different definition of victory. What if victory for you is that you fully recover from that chronic disease that you have? You know, I know brothers and sisters in the community, there's so much urge for me to mention their names, but I'm not going to mention their names. I didn't get their permission. 25 years, they struggle from one form of cancer to the other, and from one form of disease to the other. And they go through the chemotherapy and the radiotherapy and the surgeries and remove this and catheter that. 25 years. But I look at their faces and I see nothing but dignity and honor. Is that not victory? Because you might say, well, victory is when I get my health back, right? Sure, that's one way of looking at it. But what if victory also means dignity? That you suffer with your honor, that you suffer with a smile, that you suffer with your faith preserved. What if you get your victory and you recover fully from the disease and then you lose faith? And then you get sucked into the material life. And then you commit heinous sins. What if victory in this dunya means defeat in the afterlife? Will you take it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may have something else in store for you. Let Him decide. Make dua that Allah grants you that ease and that relief from your current problem. But remember, victory comes in different forms. What if victory comes in the form of salvation in the afterlife? What if victory comes in the form of Jannah? If you're standing by the gate of Jannah and I told you, hey, listen, we're not going to give you Jannah, but we're going to give you everything else that you asked for in this dunya, will you accept that trade? Will you accept that trade? Anyone with an ounce of intelligence will say, absolutely not. I don't care about anything I requested in dunya as long as you give me Jannah. Why can't you think like that now? Why can't you think like that now? Because you're stuck here with us. Because you can't see beyond the tip of your nose. But that is the job of the Qur'an, is to remind you of those truths. It's to put things in perspective for you, right? وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The ultimate positive outcome is for the righteous. I am happy that Allah made me that promise, and I'll take that aqibah, whatever it is, and wherever it is, and in whichever form that it comes in, right? We keep this in mind, brothers and sisters, as we tread through the journey of this dunya. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us goodness, to grant us khair, to grant us hope, to keep us positive, to keep us smiling, and to keep our heads high. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that each and every one of us becomes like medicine to people around them. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we become like water to the fire. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we become like lighting rods to the absolute worst forms of darkness. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us ease in this life and Jannah in the next. Allahumma ameen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وقوموا إلى صلاتكم.